And slugging catcher Darren Dalton take on the Montreal Expos and 352 hitter Moises Alou. It's the ESPN Sunday night game of the week. Monday night, Jeff Fassero took his shot at no-hit fame. For 8 2/3 innings, he dominated the Pirates. But then in this Carlos Garcia line drive, the no-hitter literally slipped out of his hand. Jay Bell then homered, and Fassero had to settle for just the win. Tonight, it's Fassero back on the hill as the Expos try to prevent a sweep at the hands of the Phillies. Sunday night baseball tonight from Canada, the National League champion Philadelphia Phillies and les Expos de Montreal. The standings in the National League East. Atlanta got clobbered again by Cincinnati today, and so the Expos, with the second best record in all of the Major League Baseball, could move to within 2.5. The Phillies, well, they're in the middle of the pack, except this year there's a new division, the wild card division. The Expos are leading that right now, followed by Houston, and then St. Louis, Philadelphia, Florida, all bunched up. The Phillies can move into third place in the wild card division with a victory here tonight. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller, along with Joe Morgan, your wild card experts. Now, the Philadelphia Phillies had a great year last year. They went all the way to the World Series. What an exciting year it was. What an exciting ball club. But this year's been a bad season. But all of a sudden this weekend, it's been like old times. They scored 6 runs in the 8th inning Friday to come from behind. They'd been trailing 6-1 at one point. And last night, they just jumped on them early and won big. Now tonight, they go for the sweep. And they're without Len Dykstra, though. They've got some injury problems, and he's always been a key man for him.
Well, he has been a key, but just like last Sunday, we were talking about the people that the Phillies are missing, but the one constant is Darren Dalton. He is still the key factor as far as I'm concerned with this Philly ball club. He's always there. This is a double Friday night that culminated that 6-run rally that won the ball game for them. And now they're going to make another change tonight. Mariano Duncan is going to get a chance to play third base on a regular basis. I think this is a good, smart thing for the Phillies because he can add something with his bat, and I think he'll be adequate over there defensively.
All right, they need some help there because Dave Hollins is on the disabled list, and Duncan's got 40 RBIs. Now, the Expos, they have been on a tear of late. They've scored 7 runs a game in the last 3 weeks, led by Moises Alou, who is blossoming into a superstar in the National League. Just this past Friday, he hit a 3-run homer in the first inning, and in the last 12 games, he has 22 RBIs and 17 runs scored. He's a one-man wrecking crew.
Well, he's gotten better each year, and he says he's going to continue to get better because he loves the game. But one of the reasons, again, is the fact that he's driven in all these runs because Marquise Grissom has been moved from the 3rd slot back to the 1st slot, and he is on a record pace of scoring runs. But Moises Alou, they did not know for sure how healthy he was going to be at the beginning of the season. He's very healthy, and they're alive and well here in Montreal.
Sort of underappreciated around the country. They're kind of hidden here in Montreal. They're the youngest team in baseball, but one of the most talented. We'll get a good look at them here tonight. Jeff Fassero, almost a no-hitter last Monday. Tonight, he'll try and be the stopper as they face the Phillies. Stay tuned. The Expos and Phillies coming up. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Sunday Night Baseball from Olympic Stadium, Montreal. Not a very big crowd so far. People still coming into the ballpark. It's very hot and humid indoors here. We'll talk about that a little bit. The Phillies, who last year led the National League in runs scored, and they're just in the middle of the pack so far this year. Part of the struggles for Jim Fregosi and his ball club coming back from their National League championship. Now with Dykstra out of the lineup, Billy Hatcher, the veteran, starts in center field. Mariano Duncan having a great year at third base. John Kruk hitting the ball well when he's able to play at first base. Pete Incaviglia, left field, starting to get hot when he's been able to play. Darren Dalton, the catcher, 4 hits last night. Tony Longmire in right field, and in there against a lefty tonight because of the injuries to Jordan. Stocker, the shortstop, Morandini at second, and Munoz is on the hill. And pitching for the Phillies, almost a no-hitter Monday. There is Jeff Fassero, and Joe, some think maybe he's blossoming into one of the best left-handers in the National League.
Well, he's pitched very, very well. Look at the numbers. The hits to innings pitch ratio is really good. Base on balls to strikeout, very good. He's showing that he is one of the top left-handers going right now.
So here we go. Fassero throws pretty hard, but keeps the ball down. Generally has pretty good control. Here is Billy Hatcher. And a 91-mile-an-hour fastball is in there for strike one.
John, we'll get a look at him tonight, and the one thing that's important is to remember when he's down in the strike zone, he still has good velocity. That's very important.
And that one misses for a ball. 1 ball and 1 strike.
You've heard me talk on several occasions about when the pitcher releases the ball high, the high fastball will give you the highest miles per hour count. Well, if you have a very good fastball, it's also very quick down in the strike zone, and that's what Fassero has.
And right to the first baseman, Floyd. Billy Hatcher is out, number 1. Jeff Fassero, we talked to him this week. Said, tell us about your repertoire.
I just throw a fastball or sinker or two-seam, which runs away from a right-hander, and then I'll go to a four-seamer to throw it into a right-hander. My other pitch is a slider, which is gripped off center of the ball, and I use that primarily for an out pitch to a left-hander, and then I'll throw a fork ball where I split the ball in half, throw it like this, and this is my out pitch to a right-hander.
Well, very good repertoire of pitches, and he knows what he wants to do on all the occasions.
He gets a couple of strikes here to Duncan. Maybe we'll see that split-fingered pitch. Mariano Duncan hitting .280, 6 home runs and 40 driven in, which is second best on the club.
Duncan had a very good year offensively last year for the Phillies as well. He has become a very good hitter in the last few years.
I always used to think of him as a glove man. Came up with the Dodgers and filled the hole at shortstop when they won a division title back in 1985. But over the years, he's blossomed into a very fine hitter, and he plays all over the place for the Phillies. Second, short, third, even the outfield.
He reminds me of Tony Phillips of the Detroit Tigers with not as much power as Tony being a switch hitter, of course. Duncan was a switch hitter earlier in his career, but now he strictly hits from the right side.
Well, he drove in 73 runs last year, so not too bad. 3-0 the count. And on 4 pitches, he has walked, which is unusual. He rarely walks. Duncan takes first. That'll bring up Kruk.
And let's take a look at the Expos defensively. They have one of the best outfield in all of baseball. And Cliff Floyd over at first base has developed into an excellent first baseman. And they think that he's really kind of similar to Steve Garvey. Really saves a lot of errors with his scoops out of the dirt. And that's especially important to Will Cordero.
Here's John Kruk. What are you saying about Cordero?
Well, he's made a lot of errors early, but he's starting to come around a little bit now. But he has been...
Are you saying he's a little erratic with his throws? Here now is John Kruk. Sliders. Did he swing? Yes. Jeffrey Kellogg, the third base umpire, says strike one. And John Kruk is astounded by this.
Well, John, until last year, watch him bail out here. Until the Randy Johnson incident in the All-Star game, I don't remember seeing John Kruk bail out quite as much. We see Bruce Fromming is very upset already at somebody saying knock it off.
In the Phillies dugout. Well,
right.
Maybe that man.
I don't think it was Fregosi, because I don't think Fregosi would have stood for that, to be perfectly honest with you. He would have something, someone else on the bench probably was questioning, the call by Kellogg at third base.
Veteran umpire Bruce Fromming.
And Bruce is always in charge of the game. Make no mistake about it. When it's his game, he's in charge.
Runner at first, 1 out, 1 strike to count to Kruk. And this could be 2. There's 1. Cordero back to first. Double play. And down go the Phillies. Marquise Grissom, Cliff Floyd, and Moises Alou will be coming up. No scores. Felipe Alou's Montreal Expos get ready to come to bat. And what a club they have proven to be so far this year. And they have really begun to sizzle with the bats as the weather has heated up. In the month of June, you see there, .313 team batting average in the first 18 days of the month, and scoring better than 7 runs a game. Marquise Grissom, it's about the time he began hitting leadoff. He's in center. Cliff Floyd, first base. Moises Alou, who just exploded on the scene in a superstar fashion. Larry Walker having a very strong year, right field. Darren Fletcher, the catcher, hitting well. Wilfredo Cordero, the shortstop, hitting well. Tito Bell at second base. Sean Barry at third base. Both of them have not been playing much lately. And Jeff Fassero is the pitcher, batting ninth. On the hill for the Phillies, the big right-hander, Bobby Munoz, acquired from the Yankees in the Terry Mulholland deal.
And you can take a look at his earned run average. He's pitched very well since he's been put back into the rotation. Good fastball, changeup, and his key is if he throws strikes. When he throws strikes, he's been effective. I saw him pitch a game in Chicago on Memorial Day, and he was excellent on that occasion, throwing strikes and getting out in front of the hitters.
Well, they'll have to face Marquise Grissom now. A good man to keep off the base paths if you can do it. Hitting .288, 6 homers, 28 batted in, 23 steals. And right now, he has taken over the league leadership in runs scored. He scored 60. Moves back for that one. 1 ball and 1 strike. And he not just scored 60 for the year, but lately, he's been scoring 2 or 3 times a night. Look at that. 21 runs scored the last 9 games. Popped up foul through a maze of speakers and wires and then back in amongst the spectators.
I talked to him before the game, and a lot of people say, well, he really got hot when they moved him from third back to the leadoff spot where he has hit a lot in his career. But he said really that was kind of a coincidence. He said what really happened is he stopped experimenting. He said he was experimenting with a lot of stances, a lot of swings, doing a lot of different things in the batter's box. He says now he is not experimenting anymore. He's just going up and hitting.
Seems to work. 2-2. Popped him up. Stocker, the shortstop. And there is 1 away.
The Phillies have really not been a real good defensive team the last couple of years, and especially on the infield. Before Stocker came, they had trouble at shortstop. Now the problems are over at third, and Mariano Duncan is going to be the latest to try to hold down the hot corner. As we all know, Hollins is not going to return to third base, and look at that, they've had 18 errors from the third baseman so far this year. That's tough.
And ball 1 to Cliff Floyd. Floyd's a great, big, huge fellow, but he runs extremely well. And he kind of looks like a first baseman because he's so huge, 6 feet 4 inches tall. But right now he's a guy who hits the ball to left field a lot, and he also has excellent speed. And Felipe Alou says that although he's done very well at becoming a very good first baseman, he could be a Gold Glover in center field. He's that good an athlete.
Well, he reminds me a lot of Dave Parker, and the things you said about him at the beginning reminds me of Dave Parker. Big guy, runs well, and really just going to get better as he goes along. Dave Parker, when he first came up, didn't hit for a lot of power, hit a lot of balls the other way, but developed into a real power hitter.
That's foul. Well, he's been working with Tommy Harper. Great baseball man and a very fine player in his own right for many years. Tommy is now the hitting instructor for the Expos. Tommy said, hey, Cliff, there's Tommy. You're a big, strong guy. Let's work on going the other way. Let's not try to pull everything right now because you're so big and strong, the home runs will come. Let's work on just being a good, solid hitter right now, making contact.
And I think that's a great idea, John, for 2 reasons. One, it'll keep you from really pulling off and being a one-alley hitter. You go the other way, you'll just develop into using the entire field.
Well, they play him straight away, all the way around. The outfielders are dead straight away. The only man in the entire field playing him to pull at all is the shortstop Stocker. There you see him a little bit over toward the middle. 3-2 the count. He struck him out.
Good pitch by Munoz. Down and in, off the plate. 85-mile-an-hour slider, and watch this pitch come down and in. You'll see the rotation on it. See, it's slider, rotation right under the bat of Clifford Floyd. I figured I'd make that mistake before the evening was over.
Here is Moises Alou. 352, third in the league, 12 homers, 46 runs batted in. We mentioned it at the top of the telecast, but it bears repeating because it's so astounding what he's been doing lately. There's ball 1, fastball missing. In his last 12 games, 22 RBIs and 17 runs scored. Plus the 7 home runs. If you subtract that means 32 runs produced in 12 games, Joe. I mean, there are some teams that are going to Well, he's in there. Duncan, I don't think had a play on him anyway.
No, it was going to be a base hit. And I talked to him before the game, and I asked him, you know, what would he say? He's 80%, 90%, and he's fluctuated between 80 and 90. It's a slider down the way, hits the top of it. Duncan charges. It's just a tough play for a season. You see the ball hit the crease and bounce actually back to Duncan's right, away from his glove, but it was still going to be a very difficult play for him to throw Moises Alou out.
2 down. Alou reaches, and here is Larry Walker.
I scored it as a base hit, John.
Then that's the way the official score is scored.
Okay. Well, we're on the same wavelength so far tonight. I've had a strikeout and an infield hit. We're correct.
I would never argue with you here in Montreal. Tebel Josez, that's where we go. 1 strike to count to Larry Walker. Walker is hitting .289, 9 home runs, and he also has 29 doubles, which leads the National League. 46 driven in, and also probably leads the league in trade rumors. Yeah, his name is mentioned,
and that has affected him, John. He feels like, you know, he's Canadian, and he feels like, well, are they going to trade me or not? And that has to play on your mind, walking in every day, reading stories about where you're going and who wants you. It's good to be wanted, but he also likes playing here in Montreal.
1-1 the count, 2 down. Ball 2, 2-1, no score in the game. There's Rondell White. Now, he is a guy they think is going to be a big star one day. That's what he's been doing so far at Ottawa this year, although there are extenuating circumstances. He's disappointed in those numbers. But the feeling is that Walker's going to be leaving anyway as a free agent at the end of the year, and Rondell White is waiting in the wings to step in. Broken bat, it sounded like. Munoz, who is 6 feet 7 inches tall, hauled that one down. That's the inning. 1 hit, 1 left. In Cavilla, Dalton, and Longmire coming up. No score. Joe Morgan from Montreal. Sunday night baseball. No score after 1 inning. The Phillies trying to get a sweep up here. Pete Incaviglia leads off against Jeff Fassero. Slider misses for ball 1. Incaviglia hitting .254. He's got 10 home runs, 22 batted in. Platoon bases. He's averaged 1 home run every 13.8 at bats. Not too bad. Similar to what he did last year. Not be handled by Sean Barry. And see how the scorer calls it. But I think, Joe, there goes the no-hitter.
Well, we'll see. That was right down the line.
Well, how would you have scored it?
They called it a base hit. Take a look at this. Out in front of the fastball. It's a sinker. It's out in front. Well, I think he should have caught the ball, John. On AstroTurf, the ball bounces true, and that was a true hop. Now watch, it's a true hop. It's right there. I think the problem was he was running away from it down the line. But we'll score the base hit as well.
Here is Darren Dalton. And that was the call played up by Bruce Fremming. In English, what he said was, strike 1. He asked us on this Father's Day to say hello to his niece, Susan, and her husband, Mark. They're visiting from Alaska, and they're looking in tonight. I guess they're at the Fremming home. Bruce Fremming. I don't know where Bruce is on Father's Day every year. Just we'll find a ballpark somewhere. 1 ball, 1 strike to Darren Dalton, the big slugger. Centerpiece of this ball club. Dalton, .289, 13 homers, 47 driven in, and in there every day. They said this year we think we'll give him more days off. Hasn't happened.
And it's not going to happen very often either.
That slider misses.
When you have a player of his caliber, even though he's a catcher and you know he needs some days off, you still feel like 80 or 90% of Darren Dalton is better than most players that you can put behind the plate. So you end up continuing to put him in there. Like I say, I saw that situation with Johnny Bench. I mean, he probably should have had more days off, but it's hard not to put his name in the lineup.
You see the jugs gun. Trying to get a handle on what Jeff Fassero is, how hard he's throwing with his various pitches. He doesn't like that new baseball. He'll ask for another one. By the way, the second base umpire, as we're talking about the umpires and their families, Larry Pansino, There he is. Wanted us to say happy Father's Day to his father, Louis, who is battling cancer in a hospital in the Yucca Valley, California right now. He wanted to be remembered to his dad, and we too sent along all of our best wishes to Louis Poncino out there in the Yucca Valley. 2-2 to count.
There are a lot of people on the Phillies who are flashy and who get a lot of publicity. Dykstra for the way that he plays, Kruk for his personality, and Incavilla. These guys are personalities. But this is the guy. I mean, Dalton is a stabilizing influence. He's the guy that's there every day, and he's the guy that you can pencil certain things in every year, and he's going to get the job done.
This is their 69th game. It is the 62nd time that he has started at the catcher. No score, second inning. Nobody out. Runner at first. In the left field and past Alou. It will roll to the wall. Grissom chases it down. Being waved home is Incavilla. Here comes the relay. It's offline. And the Phillies lead 1-0. Dalton ends up at second.
That's one of those in-between plays. You're not sure you can catch it, but you think you should give it a try. It's actually real good hitting by Dalton because it looked like the pitch was away, and he just went the other way with it. Let's take a look at it. Looks like a fastball away, and Dalton just slapped it to left field. Now, Lou can't get there. He just takes a dive for it, and the ball gets by him, and before Grissom can retrieve it, Incavilla comes in to score.
So a double for Dalton. His 16th and his 48th run batted in. 1-0 for the Phillies now, and here is Tony Longmire, left-handed hitter. Pops the bunt up, but it drops. And Fassero was tagging anybody in the vicinity there. He tagged Cliff Floyd, although it truly was inadvertent, and then he tagged Longmire as well, and Dalton makes it down to third base. Not exactly the way you teach the bunt, though.
No, and not only that, either you drag the ball, try to beat it out for a base hit, or you're supposed to bunt it down the third base line. He pops it up, so he gets away with it, but Fassero off the mound quickly over and tags Longmire out.
So now a runner at third base with one away, and here is Kevin Stocker, one of the heroes last year in the stretch run for the Phillies and in the postseason. Hit .324 for the Phillies after being called up after the All-Star break.
And the Expos are going to play the infield halfway. Now they creep in, so they're not going to allow Dalton to score on a routine ground ball to the infield.
Does that surprise you?
No, simply because with one out, I believe that why give away a run? You're already down 1-0. Why just give away a run? But make them earn it.
It also makes it easier for Stocker to get a hit, though.
Yeah, but you're also at the bottom of the batting order, and you're not just sacrificing, giving a run away.
So if this was, say, the second place hitter up, maybe it's not a good idea.
Right, because then you're going to the middle of the lineup.
All right. See, now I'm agreeing with you.
Okay. Well, you should know I had my reasons. I wouldn't just say it.
I thought you had lost your senses there for a second. 1 ball, 1 strike for Stocker. I know that you work hard all week, and your mind is 1,000 places, John.
Yeah.
1 ball, 1 strike to Kevin Stocker. Mickey Morandini is on deck. Why not just walk Stocker? You got the left-handed batting Morandini. Maybe hits a double play and the inning's over.
Well, that may be true, but you don't want to put extra men on base as well, especially on an AstroTurf field, because we just saw anything in the gaps will score the runner from first base. I think you have to play a little differently on AstroTurf than you do on natural turf, because balls hit in the gaps will always score runners from first base on AstroTurf, not so on natural turf.
It's foul. Right to the near corner of the Philadelphia dugout. The dugouts are real close here. They put up screens in front of the dugouts because it was hazardous. They moved home plate back toward the backstop to make the park a little more intimate. Formerly, there was no ballpark that was less intimate than this one. Now, the fans down there in those close rows are very close to the action, which is a definite improvement in here. 1-0 Phillies, and there's a runner at third with 1 out. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Stocker. And the breaking ball misses inside. 2-2 now. It's been real hot here in Montreal. got into the high 90s here yesterday and also Friday. And they have no air conditioning inside. There you see how close they've moved the stands in here. But it has been hot and humid inside this ballpark. It's been almost like a sauna for a couple of days here. Now you see the infield, how they're playing. Well, that'll hold the runner. Throws out Stocker.
Well, the reason you do not just give away a run, if you're playing back on this play and that routine ground ball just drives in a run, so at least you make them earn it. That's the philosophy that Felipe Alou obviously had in that situation, and naturally I agree with it. The one thing I wanted to point out there, they were playing very shallow for Stocker in the outfield, and what you have to remember is that the ball's traveling very well here when it's hot inside. Nice play there by Barry. He holds Dalton and then throws to first base to retire Stocker.
Here is Mickey Morandini.
All right, now here's back to your question. Why not walk him and pitch to the pitcher? I don't agree with that either. I think you have to go after him.
Well, I think, here we go, Joe. If he was a right-handed hitter,
right, then
they would.
Yes, you're right.
But this way they have a chance to exploit the percentage. You see how they're back in normal depth now.
Right.
If they get him out, the pitcher will lead off the next inning. They will have residual benefits. How'd I do?
You did pretty well, except I'm not, I don't worry about next inning if the guy can hurt you.
If okay, the guy can hurt you.
Right.
But he's a left-handed hitter. I don't think
so
he's...
so they figure that they can...
Well, now they're going to walk him. It's 2-0. They are going to walk him intentionally with Munoz on deck. Once they fell behind him, that changed the equation a little bit.
I agree, and I agree with this again. Well, as you know, last night, Danny Jackson was pitching and he drove in 5 runs.
Yeah. This was Jackson that just brought in Butch Henry to face him with the bases loaded, and he ripped one almost 400 feet and cleared the bases with a triple. And then later in the game, he did it again. All told, Jackson a double and a triple and 5 runs batted in. So now here is Munoz with runners at first and third, 2 down. Here is the first pitch, and it's a ground ball, base hit into right field. The throw to first by Walker, and just barely because the ball was dropped over there. Floyd dropped the ball, and I'd like to see what that call would have been had he held it.
Yeah, it was going to be a close play at first base. And we'll watch Munoz hits the ball into right field. Now Floyd starts for it momentarily. Now he backs up. Here comes Walker charging. He's done this a lot this year, throwing back to first base, trying to retire.
Well, he would have had him. What do you think?
Well, he can't really. It was close, John.
It'll be scored as a hit and a run batted in for Munoz. Morandini stopping at second, and it is 2-0. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe in San Francisco very early in the season, Walker threw out one of the John Burkett, that's right, the pitcher of the Giants at first base on a play just like that. 3 different times he has thrown out a batter at first base on an apparent single to right field. The batter, Billy Hatcher. Up the middle, base hit. Here comes Morandini. Here comes Grissom's throw. Offline, handcuffing the catcher, skipping past him. The runners will advance. Munoz takes third, and Hatcher goes to second. And the Phillies have 3 runs home. Single and an RBI and Hatcher, then they'll have to charge an error, and I would guess to Grissom, because the throw got past the catcher Fletcher.
Well, this ball is hit directly back through the box. There you see the split finger. Well, it's not a split finger, it's a fork ball. He grounded right back through the middle. Now Grissom comes up firing. He actually had a shot at the plate on Morandini. Now watch, the ball actually arrives about the same time, but it bounces away, so he will be charged with an error.
In fact, Joe, we understand Duncan takes strike one. I don't think this is right. Did they charge the error to the catcher?
Well, they may be concerned the fact he didn't get down and block it. Maybe, but normally that error goes to the outfielder for the throw.
And That's a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike. 3 runs in for the Phillies here. 2 since the intentional walk. And Mariano Duncan, the reason he's got 40 RBIs and had 73 last year, look at that. This is his kind of situation. He has been at his best in the clutch. Chance here to break this game open in the 2nd inning.
Only because things have backfired in this inning with the intentional walk that I think they're pitching to Duncan, because you may be better off walking Duncan and pitching to Kruk, because he hasn't played every day as he has in the past, and he has not played as often against left-handed pitching this year. And the way he looked his first at bat, I would say that Fassero has a better odds of getting him out than he does Duncan.
Hit a double play his first time. And that is a base hit left center field. It will roll to the wall. Munoz scores. Hatcher scores. And a 2-run double for Duncan. It is 5-0 Philadelphia. The fans are not happy. The Phillies doing it again to the Expos.
Duncan. And there's Joe Kerrigan, the pitching coach, out talking to Fassero.
Well, the Phillies, they scored 6 in the 8th inning. And most of them against the top 2 relievers the Expos possess, Mel Rojas and John Wetland, 2 of the best relievers in the league. And last night, they pounded everybody. The starter, the relievers. They scored 8 times to strike the Kruk. And now here they're doing it to Fassero.
Well, the important thing for Fassero is to give them some innings, because, as you mentioned, they used a lot of pitchers the last couple of ball games, so they're trying to, get Fassero to rest the bullpen tonight. So far, it doesn't look like he's going to get that far.
Well, the bullpen has pitched 12 innings in the 2 games of this series, including 8 last night. And Felipe Alou said we really need, realistically, to get 7 innings at least out of Fassero tonight. 5 runs on the board in the 2nd inning. And right to the shortstop, Wilfredo Cordero. The inning is ended. They bat around 9 batters, 5-run score. 5-0 Phillies. Right for Griffey. There is Kevin Stocker, and he takes a called strike. It is 0-1. Stocker, a switch hitter, batting right-handed, facing Jeff Fassero. There's one other ball game going on tonight. That's in Texas at the ballpark in Arlington. The first-place Rangers, with just a 2-game lead over the Mariners at the start of the day, they're taking on Oakland. Oakland is only 7.5 games out with a 5-game winning streak. They went to Chicago, trounced the White Sox. Now they've gone to Texas, and they've been trouncing the Rangers. We want to keep you updated on that ball game tonight. The Athletics, with a record of 24-43, but they're only 7.5 out, Joe.
And a long way to go.
And that's a ball inside. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
If there's no strike.
Well, when we were out there, a couple of weeks ago, we saw the Athletics. They got clobbered by Cleveland. And La Russa at that time had been talking about, hey, at this point, we just got to keep our heads up, not be depressed at all. Because if we get a good streak together, maybe we can get back into this race. And we all kind of laughed. Yeah, get back in the race. Yeah. Well, they're 7.5 out. They win tonight, they'll be 6.5 out.
But the one thing we mentioned there, John, is that they never quit. Even though they were falling behind early in ball games, they always came back to make it a good contest. So that hard work and determination is paying off a little bit for them now.
And I've been reading little dispatches that Mark McGwire might come back soon.
Yes.
They got a little punch in that lineup anyway. Gates is back now, hitting well. Baroa has been a discovery. And Sierra has been rejuvenated.
Well, he's been hitting well all the time. He just didn't have anybody to drive in or any help.
And Ricky Henderson, playing like Ricky Henderson again. That one is foul. By the way, Mark McGwire did play last night.
Right.
And he is in the lineup tonight.
Last night was his first night back, and he started because they came off the disabled list. They put him against the left-hander so that he could come back in that capacity. So
he went 1 for 2.
Once a hitter, always a hitter, John.
If you came back tonight, you'd go 1 for 2 with a walk.
And then probably 0 for 30.
That's a base hit for Stocker. So we've set the scene for that one. Let's go down to Linda Cohn with this update.
You certainly did, gentlemen. Thanks a lot, Linda Cohn, back in the studio. MCI proof positive takes you out to the ballpark in Arlington. Oakland in town, gunning for their 6th straight win. Ruben Sierra against Kenny Rogers, his 17th home run of the year. That made it 3-0 Oakland. Kenny Rogers walked in 2 in the first. Gentlemen.
All right, 3-0 for the Athletics there, 5-0 for the Phillies here. We're in the 4th inning here. Runner at first, nobody out. For Sierra, by the way, that gives him 61 RBIs for the year. He's got a chance to win the RBI title in the American League. Will Clark of Texas leads the league with 67. Now Sierra, 61. Morandini, and he takes a strike. Well, he was walked intentionally in the 2nd inning. We did some checking because at first they were pitching to him until Fassero fell behind him 2-0. Morandini 2 for 19 against lefties, and you see that's 2 for his last night, 19, and in his career he's never really hit well against lefties either. That was hit hard down the right field line. Walker will have to play the carom. And in there safely is Morandini. Walker's got a great arm. Got rid of it in a hurry. Stopping at third, Stocker. The batter will be Munoz.
And as soon as you say that, he's not hitting left-handers. He rips a double to right field. Actually, left-handers were hitting 130 going into tonight's contest against Fassero, but that's a good pitch for a left-hander to hit. It's up and on the inside part of the plate where he's bailing from. Walker plays it, fires, makes it a close play at second, but really no chance to get a good runner when the ball bounces off the wall. And again, the Expos are going to play the infield in or halfway. They're starting with it halfway, and I'm sure they'll move in.
Munoz singled home a run his first time. Slapped it into right field. Right up the middle, base hit. Stocker scores. Morandini will be stopped. And Munoz is 2 for 2. And in the last 2 nights here, Philadelphia pitchers have driven in 7 runs.
Well, I think they need to have a better scouting report on the Philly pitchers as hitters. They probably have a great scouting report on their pitching, but they better do a little better with their hitting. Fastball right in the middle of the plate, and that's usually the problem. When you get a fastball right where pitchers are swinging, they can usually get lumber on it. And it drives in 1, and Morandini stops at third base.
Well, Phillies pitchers have now driven in 18 runs this year. Here is Billy Hatcher. Ball 1. Ball 2. Ball 1. I knew it was ball 1, Joe, and I looked at the scoreboard and they flashed ball 2 real quick. I thought, well, maybe I missed one. I'm just going to quit looking at the scoreboard.
Well, I think you and Juan Bell better stop looking at the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Just watch Bruce Fleming.
3-1 the count. There's Joey Eishen, just caught up in the minor leagues today. And he's warming up in the bullpen.
Takes Tim Scott's place, right? Scott went on the disabled list?
No, well, he's already on the disabled list. But they sent down Gabe White, the starter who got knocked out early last night.
Right.
So they felt they needed a little reinforcement for the bullpen, having had 12 innings pitched out of the bullpen the last 2 days anyway. 2-1 the count now to Billy Hatcher. And that's my estimate. Morandini at third, Munoz at first, and that is ball 3.
I think Fleming agrees with you this time.
There is Mickey Morandini at third base and Bobby Munoz at first base. Munoz had been 1 for 9 as a hitter before tonight. Catcher to center field, deep enough to score Morandini. Grissom catches, Morandini runs, and the Phillies have a 7-0 lead. It's not been a very good weekend for the top teams in the National League East. They've been getting lit up lately,
including the Atlanta Braves, who have maybe the best pitching staff in baseball, the best starting pitchers, we should say, but they've been getting knocked around as well. You're right.
Well, they lost last night to Cincinnati 16-0. You see, the Braves they're not hurting too badly in the standings, despite getting clobbered. The Expos right behind them. Those are the two best records in the major leagues. But the Braves lost again today, 12-4 to Cincinnati. 28 runs allowed in 2 games by Atlanta's pitching, and all earned.
And you mentioned the Expos have been giving up a lot of runs here to the Phillies, and the Expos were second to the Braves as far as earned run average in the National League.
That is foul by Mariano Duncan down the left field line. Well, the Phillies now have scored 25 runs in this series in 3 games, actually 2.5 games. We were only in the 4th inning tonight. Duncan delivered 2 runs with a double his last time up there. And Johnny Padres in the middle. Pitching coach saying, yeah, nothing wrong with our pitching. They just weren't scoring for it. That's all.
That's Vukovic and also Dennis Minke. Minke's the hitting instructor.
Well, let's see. The Phillies numbers 9, 1, and 2 hitters. Munoz and Hatcher and Duncan have 6 of the 7 RBIs in this game so far. Munoz has got 2, Hatcher 2, and Duncan 2. 2-2 the count to Mariano Duncan. He now has 42 RBIs for the year, so it's not unusual for him to be driving in some runs. Runner at first, 1 out, 2 runs in. That's a foul. Off to the right and out of play. Phillies are in the midst of a road trip. We saw them, of course, last Sunday on Sunday Night Baseball at home, and they won a ball game there. Then they went to New York, and they lost 2 out of 3. It looked like more of the same for them. In fact, Jim Fregosi was so upset after a 1-0 loss to Bobby Jones in the Mets Wednesday. He actually criticized his team in the press, which is unusual for Fregosi. And the count goes to 3-2. They came here and now after falling behind 6-1 in the first inning Friday. That's right, 6-1. The Phillies, they look just like the ball club that went to the World Series last year. And they better keep it up because they've got a series coming up in Pittsburgh next and then in Atlanta. Well, ball 4 to Duncan. Second time that he's walked. He had walked only 15 times all year.
Well, but now he's an everyday third baseman. They're afraid of the third baseman.
So when he was a second baseman or shortstop, he didn't walk.
Second baseman, shortstop, they're not afraid of them.
So Munoz takes second, Duncan takes first, and here is John Kruk. Let me just correct myself. They're going to Pittsburgh, are the Phillies, but when they face Atlanta, they'll be back home in Philly. Swing and a miss by John Kruk, 0-1.
And John Kruk is just really bailing out here. I just don't remember seeing him bail this much against a left-hander, except for Randy Johnson in the All-Star game. Now look where he steps, and look, he's already gone. Nothing you can do if you bail that much, pull off that much. Front shoulder leaves, everything else leaves. Your head leaves. Can't see the ball.
There it is again. 0-2 the count. Well, Kruk, after his battle with cancer and undergoing the radiation treatments, surgery, and then trying to get himself back in game condition, and seems to have gone through a period of depression as well. He even contemplated retiring from the game. That's so unusual after you've had a battle with cancer. Confronted with your mortality. 1-2 the count. When we were there last week, because he wasn't really in game condition yet, he was only playing every other day. And still isn't really in full game condition even now, but with some injury, they need him in there. Look out.
Now these last 2 pitches by Fassero is helping him to bail. The 0-2 pitch with a fastball in, and now the 1-2 pitch looks like it might get away from him. It's also in. And there goes Kruk.
2-2 the count. 2 on, only 1 out. The Phillies ahead 7-0 here in the 4th inning.
Now let's see if Fassero goes away with a breaking ball.
There it is, the slider. You call it.
And that's what you do. 0-2 in, then you have to go back away with the breaking ball. But as a hitter, it's kind of hard to lean out there. As Tony Perez used to say, you think out there, but you don't go out there. It's often the pitch before that sets up the strikeout. Here's the pitch before, way up and in, so Kruk gets out of the way. Now here's the slider breaking down and away, and no Kruk in sight. You can see he's back on his heels there. Good shot there. Kind of laugh a little bit because I've been there myself.
Here's Pete Incaviglia. You get an infield hit in the 2nd. Really on a ball that Sean Berry should have played.
Yes.
Score ruled it a hit.
Leniently.
But that was the start of a 5-run rally for the Phillies. Incaviglia grounded out to short in the 3rd. He's 1 for 2. 2 on, 2 out in the 4th inning. To right center field, Walker. And that is the inning. Been all Phillies so far. We'll see Fletcher, then Cordero when we get back. 7-0 Philadelphia. Phillies 7, Expos 0, and Darren Daulton is getting ready to hit for the Phils.
Well, let's take a look at Darren Daulton on this split screen. This is the old Darren Daulton. Hips already open, shoulder open. That'll make him go this way instead of going towards the pitcher. Now watch, a little different swing. He's already open. Not as much power in that swing. See, he's already open. By contrast, on the right, he's already closed, front shoulders closed. He will go this way and stay in longer, drive off the back leg. Look at that. Much better swing, more power. And that's the Darren Daulton that you see today as compared to the Darren Daulton of a couple of years ago.
A lot of pain, a lot of disappointment, a lot of sacrifice in those years for Darren Daulton. A lot of time spent in the rehab room and under the surgeon's knife. But he persevered, and all of a sudden Darren Daulton become an overnight sensation.
And I think if you have to pick, players about and say use the word professionalism, Darren Daulton exemplifies that very well. I mean, he's one of my favorite players. I think you can tell that, but just by the way he goes about his job, and he's also a leader, and I like that.
And he leads by example,
right?
But he's also, as you mentioned earlier, a take charge guy. He hollers.
Well, if he
commands respect.
Right. If he sees something wrong, he says something about it.
I mean, is that important in a clubhouse to have a guy who commands respect and will holler at guys if they need it? Very important. And it takes the manager out of the equation. The manager doesn't always want to come in and yell at players. Players should help discipline each other sometimes. If your player hits a ground ball and he doesn't run the ball out, the other player should get on him rather than wait for the manager to have to do it. So, I mean, a lot was made of Danny Jackson hollering at Tony Longmire, but that's going to happen on a good team with a big star who feels it needs to be done.
Needs to be done. You're supposed to do it. Ooh.
That one is gone. Wow. Bonsoir, elle est partie.
Oui.
Man, as it landed.
Well, Daulton had 4 base hits in yesterday's ball game. He was 4 for 5. Now he's 2 for 3 with 2 runs batted in this ball game. And that's number 14 for Darren.
He obviously needs a day off, Joe.
Yes, but that's why you can't give him a day off, and that's what gets him in trouble. He just keeps hitting, and he keeps doing well, so you leave him in the lineup.
Now here is Longmire. He's striking the outside. Longmire's had a sacrifice bunt, and he's grounded to first. 0 for 1. 8-0 for the Phillies. Daulton now 14 home runs and 49 runs batted in. Center field, Grissom. And Longmire is out number 1. Darren Daulton. Man.
Yeah, I mean, you can see him practicing that swing. This ball was in and up a little bit, and he really put a charge into it. Looked like a hanging slider, and that's exactly what it is. It's in, and, I mean, he really gets all of this one. Look at that. I mean, a little bit uppercut in his swing there. A little bit of an uppercut, and it goes a long ways.
One out, nobody on, and here is Kevin Stocker. He's grounded to third and singled. He singled in the fourth as a leadoff batter and started a 2-run rally. 1 ball and no strikes. Bonsoir et le parti. That's Roger Brulat. Broadcast the game here in Montreal in French along with Jacques Doucet. That is his special home run call, Joe.
Okay, well, as an analyst, was I supposed to just say oui?
That's good.
Okay.
Well, whatever "that's right, John" is in French.
Okay.
Oui, Jean. Bullpen is going again. Joey Eischen, who was up earlier, is up again. 2-1 the count to Stocker. Oakland in Texas tonight. That's the other ball game still going. A foul ball. We're going to give you an update of that one shortly. That American League West is just kind of a crazy division. It looked like Texas earlier this week was going to take charge out there. They got a big lead. They got up to 500, actually got over 500. But they've collapsed since then. The last week has been a nightmare for the Rangers. 2-2 the count. Another ball game that had been going tonight. Not simultaneous with this one, but also a late start. The Mets at Florida. We'll update you on that one as well. If you want to know what's happening in baseball, this is where you turn. ESPN. In right field. And Walker's got it. Let's go now to Linda Cohn for this update.
Thanks, John. At Joe Robbie, Dwight Gooden, the story. The Mets won at 6-1, salvaging a split with the Marlins, but Gooden struck out 6 through 8. His dad saw him pitch in person for the first time in 6 years. Back to Montreal, gentlemen. Happy Dad's Day.
And you know what? Couldn't happen to a nicer guy, Dwight Gooden. I'm glad to see that he won that ball game.
Great story. His dad finally able to see him pitch. And Dwight had 10 strikeouts earlier this week against the Phillies.
Maybe he's coming back. Dr. K.
Into left center. Alou on the run. Morandini hit it well. Alou tracked it down. 8-0 Philadelphia. Halfway through. Top of the order coming up. Marquise Grissom, Cliff Floyd, and Moises Alou. Stay tuned. Phillies 8, Expos 0. John Miller and Joe Morgan here from Montreal. And so far, the Expos cannot get these pitchers out. This is last night in the second inning. Butch Hendry gives up a 3-run triple to Danny Jackson later in the same game. New pitcher. And Jackson hits a 2-run double. 5 runs batted in. Jackson won the game 8-4. Now, Bobby Munoz tonight. Second inning, singles home a run. Just did beat the throw. Then in the fourth inning, another single. And another run batted in. I've never, and now a new pitcher is in, Joey Eischen. See if he has any more luck here with Bobby Munoz.
Well, they're probably all running for their scouting reports on these pitchers as hitters. Munoz trying to look like a hitter there.
Well, last night, Butch Henry talking about the triple that Jackson hit against him. He said, well, says it was a hanging slider. It was up right in his zone. And he should have crushed it. 1-2 now to Munoz. Joey Eischen just called up for the minor leagues today. You saw his numbers there in the minors. I can't believe it. Is this really happening, Joe? Why would they throw him a breaking ball there anyway? I don't get that.
That was going to be my question. He threw him a good fastball right by him. He also threw a fastball that tailed away. And then I guess you figure the pitchers can't hit breaking balls. That's basically the book on them. And Felipe had to just kind of laugh at it. Here's another pitch. A breaking ball is ripped up the middle by Munoz. Not a great swing, but he got great results.
And I mean, he looked like he wasn't handling the fastball. Why not just make him prove he can handle it before you? I mean, maybe Eischen was just testing him.
Well, you can be a pitching coach, John, because I'm sure that Kerrigan is asking the same thing right about now. Why?
Billy Hatcher, 1 for 2, 2 runs batted in. There's Joe Kerrigan. Hasn't asked for my help and doesn't need it. Base hit for Hatcher. Hatcher 2 for 3, and Munoz over to second. 8-0. The Phillies leading the Expos. We're in the 6th inning. It's 11 hits now for the Phils. Sunday night baseball from Olympic Stadium in Montreal. I'm John Miller along with Joe Morgan. We're glad to have you joining us. 8-0. The Phillies are out in front here in the 6th with 2 men on and nobody out. Second Expos pitcher of the game, Joey Eischen, has just come on for Jeff Fassero to start this inning. Munoz and Hatcher have hit back-to-back singles, and here is Mariano Duncan. Up the middle, base hit. Munoz will stop at third base. Duncan with his second hit to go with 2 walks and 2 runs batted in. Hatcher stops at second, and there is Duncan aboard at first. 3 consecutive hits against Joey Eischen.
Maybe this does look like the Phillies of 1993 when they led the National League in runs scored. They're starting to put some numbers on the board.
Joe Kerrigan. Well, the Expos, their pitching staff has been something to brag about. 3.58 earned run average before tonight, and that's after getting clobbered the last 2 nights. It's going up still further. Here is John Kruk. 4-1. The Phillies making some noise all of a sudden. Got 3 more games on this road trip in Pittsburgh. Then they go home to face Atlanta. Bases loaded for Kruk. High pop-up. Third base side. Barry. It's 1 ball and 1 strike.
I have not seen John Kruk look this bad against left-handed pitchers in a long, long time. Now watch, he goes again. Watch his front shoulder. It's already gone. Look at that. I mean, there's no way. He just looks like he's just swinging and hoping. But he's too good a hitter to do that. So it just tells you that he is not quite where he would like to be as a hitter. There's a few more games, and he has not faced much left-handed pitching this year.
Well, in his career prior to this season, Kruk had always held his own against the lefties. A .275 batting average against left-handed pitching.
And especially last year, he hit well against left-handed.
.292 last year. That is Munoz at third base. Hatcher second base. Duncan at first, and you see in the background bullpen activity. Gil Heredia is now warming up.
John, what usually happens where left-hander swings like this, he's not picking the ball up quickly enough.
Bell to second, and they get just the one there. Cordero covering. Scoring is Munoz. Hatcher to third. Kruk gets an RBI. And it is now 9-0 for the Phils. Kruk now 0 for 4, but he does get the run batted in.
Watch his front shoulder. See how it's already gone? That tells you right there that he's not able to hit the ball the other way. Now watch, his front shoulder will go here. John Kruk usually goes in here a little bit, and that allows him to hit the ball back through the middle. This way he only has one place to go, and that's to pull the ball with his top hand. Watch his top hand. That's all he can do. And that's not the John Kruk of the past 3 or 4 years.
No. So when you think of John Kruk, you think of a guy who hits the ball to left field all the time.
Yeah, but he has no way of hitting the ball to left field when you pull off the ball like that. You can only use your hands because your body's gone and nothing. And if you use your hands, you're just going to roll over and pull it to second base. Pull some ground balls to the right side.
Pete Incaviglia has had an infield hit, grounded to short and flying to right center. Incaviglia had a tremendous year last year, particularly for a guy who didn't play every day. It would have been a very good year for a guy who played every day. Incaviglia finished up with 24 homers and 89 runs batted in last year, and did all of that at only 368 at bats. swung, and the count is 1-2. Coming to Philadelphia is like a new lease on life for Incaviglia, including this year. They're 506 at bats, almost a full season.
Yeah, almost.
34 home runs and 111 RBIs.
550 to 600 is considered a full season if you're an everyday player.
He struck him out with a slider. So Eischen gets the second out.
Take a look at the slider from Eischen. You can see how he's holding the ball. Good rotation there. You can see it. That's a tight slider. Good slider because it's tight. Meaning the spin is tight.
Joey Eischen with his first major league strikeout. This is his major league debut. Darren Daulton. Double home run. Boom! He homered his last time. And this time, against a different pitcher, he gets nailed.
Well, it's obvious that Eischen was trying to come inside. And the ball got away from him. Well, he drops down a little bit, and that gets more tail on the ball. And it gets Daulton on the right arm. Well, Daulton goes right in, and then he can't get out of the way. He actually starts in. Watch, he starts in. Now he tries to move his body out of the way, but he left his arm out over the plate a little bit. Gets hit.
The Phillies were none too happy about that. Here is Longmire. And that's low. I mean, in the situation, Joe, down 9-0. The series is coming to an end, and they're not going to face each other till much later in the season again. No reason at all that the Expos would have here to throw at Daulton.
No, and I definitely don't believe that you have a rookie pitcher, you know, guy just called up throwing at Darren Daulton.
The bases are loaded with 2 down. There is Hatcher at third base, Kruk now at second base, and Daulton at first base. Joey Eischen from West Covina, California. Used to be in the Texas Rangers organization. He was picked up in a trade. That one is hit deep into left center. Grissom back. It'll go up against the wall. Hatcher scores, Kruk scores, and they all score. Daulton comes in. A 3-run double for Longmire. It is 12-0 Philadelphia. First hit of the game for Longmire.
And there you see Felipe Alou. I don't think he'll get a standing ovation this time. But he has gotten some standing ovations when he comes out of the dugout because they have a lot of respect for him here in Montreal. Joey, a double switch.
Yeah, Joey Eischen in his major league debut goes 2/3 of an inning and gives up 4 runs and 4 hits. And Alou will go to the bullpen yet again. We're only in the 6th inning. And Heredia is coming in. He worked last night for an inning. 12-0 for the Phillies. We'll be back. Led by Romario, if he is healthy. That's the big mystery. As you see, John Wetland has come on to pitch now. The ace reliever, the closer out of the Expos bullpen, getting some work in tonight. Romario got hurt in their last tune-up a week ago in Fresno, California. Has not been seen at practice all week. The trainer for Brazil says that he's going to play. But even if he does, they're wondering how effective will he be. Kevin Stocker 1 for 4 facing John Wetland. And that's high for a ball. It's Peter Gammons in his Boston Globe. There's the new first baseman. Benavidez stays in to play first. And Floyd has moved from first out to right field. So Alou has left the game. And Wetland will hit in his spot, the number 3 spot in the order. Although I don't imagine actually he ever will hit. Peter Gammons in the Boston Globe today traced a trade. Interesting. Sergio Valdez and Nate Minchie, traded by the Expos to Atlanta for Zane Smith. All right, you with me so far?
Yeah.
Then the Expos traded Zane Smith later to Pittsburgh for Moises Alou and Willie Green. Then Willie Green was later traded to Cincinnati for John Wetland. So they ended up for Sergio Valdez and Nate Minchie, Moises Alou, and John Wetland. Not too bad.
Well, I already knew that. Peter Pasquarelli told me that last week.
See, Peter never talks to me.
Oh.
There's a high drive to right field. Floyd going back. He was playing very shallow. Nice catch. You know, Felipe Alou said that Floyd's worked very hard at becoming an excellent first baseman, but he thinks that he could end up being a Gold Glove center fielder. So strong is he as an outfielder. We saw it there, didn't we?
Yeah, well, he got a good jump on the ball. He was playing very shallow, and he casually went back and made the catch. Doesn't take his eyes off the ball, tracks it down, makes the catch. Even used two hands.
Here's Mickey Morandini, 1 for 3. That two-hand catch there, what that replay looked like was mandatory. Might not have been a catch without that second
Well,
hand.
you were talking about how good he was. I didn't want to point that out.
Fouled away. John Wetland, they picked him up. Actually, he went from the Dodgers to Cincinnati for Eric Davis. Then from Cincinnati to Montreal. And Wetland has become one of the premier closers in this league. It's a lot of strikeouts. Although he got lit up here Friday night by the Phillies. They've lit up both he and
Rojas.
Mel Rojas.
Well, Rojas took over the closer role while Wetland was on the disabled list, and he was 8 for 8 during that stretch. And that's kind of interesting because he got very upset with his uncle, Philippe Alou, when he took him out of a ball game a week or so ago.
That's a fair ball. Morandini will get extra bases on this one. He's going to try for 3. The relay way offline from Tito Bell, and a triple for Mickey Morandini to go with his earlier double. And for the Phillies tonight, everybody's doing it.
Everybody's doing it. You're right. Well, I think the hitters have been a little bit embarrassed by the production of their pitching staff, so they want to make up for it. Good extension on that ball. The ball was down away, and he just kind of pulled it in the corner. And a lot of people say, well, why are you going for a triple and the score is 12-0? Well, you don't think about that when you play the game. You just hustle. And that's what Morandini does here. And he has a triple.
Mickey Morandini 2 for 4 tonight, and here is a pinch hitter, Ricky Jordan, batting for Bobby Munoz. So Munoz will not be given the opportunity to get the complete game shutout. But from what we've seen tonight, he may have some opportunities in the future. Remember, he had not pitched longer than 6 innings in a game this year. Well, there comes run number 13 on the ground ball by Jordan. He's been having some hamstring problems. That's why he didn't start the game tonight with the left-hander going, but he picks up a run batted in here. 13-0 for the Phillies. That is their 31st run in this series.
And that's against the second best pitching staff in the National League, earned run average wise.
They've had 31 runs and 47 hits in 3 games here this weekend. The team batting average for this series, .392. Here's Billy Hatcher. He's 3 for 4 tonight. Munoz, 8 innings, no runs, 8 hits. Well, only 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. He did throw 119 pitches. I suppose right there is the explanation for why he's gone.
Well, the most important statistic there for him was the 1 base on balls, and that came late in the ball game. In fact, it came in the 8th inning. So if he throws strikes, he has been able to win. But you mentioned earlier that has been his problem in the past. Although the last 2 times I've seen him pitch, he's been throwing strikes from the first pitch to the last.
Heathcliff Slocum is up in the bullpen, so he'll come on in the last half of the 9th inning. The Phillies 13, the Expos nothing. Next Sunday night, we'll be at Skydome in Toronto. World champion Blue Jays will be taking on the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles 2 games back in the American League East behind the Yankees. But the Blue Jays 8 games out. They're still last place over there.
And the Blue Jays made a run at the Yankees when they played them a week ago there, but they've since fallen back a little bit.
Now the Blue Jays in the same thing in that wild card race. They'd be 6 games out of a wild card berth. They'll most likely be facing Mike Messina, a 9-game winner next Sunday night. Well, we're heading to the last of the ninth inning tonight. 13-0 Philadelphia. 3-way tie, I think. Now coming up Wednesday on ESPN, Ken Griffey Jr., Jason Maris, and the Babe. And he'll be taking on Tim Salmon, Shirley Davis, the California Angels. That's 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific. Wednesday night baseball on ESPN. Don't miss a chance to see the kid right now. He is something else. Here is Will Cordero facing the new pitcher, Heathcliff Slocum. Stocker got it. Cordero is now 2 for 4 for the game. 1 away. The new pitcher, Heath Slocum, and he had been a real find for the Phillies. Done an excellent job.
Well, he was with the Cubs, and there's a lot of people have always felt he had good stuff. He just couldn't stay healthy, and he hasn't been able to produce, but he's doing a very good job for the Phillies so far.
And he has worked hard. This is his 35?
Okay.
His 35th appearance in the 69th game.
And he's broken 2 back in his appearance so far.
Well, for Bell, at least he hit the ball. The last 3 times he didn't even make contact at all.
You're right. He was going for the golden sombrero, right?
Si, senor. Oui, monsieur. Jim Fregosi. He's starting to feel more like it was supposed to feel for Fregosi and the Phillies with this big weekend. With a win tonight, they'll move over 500 to 35 and 34. And within 6 games of the wild card, which is the downside of this whole wild card thing. Not that the Phillies have a shot at it, but we could be looking at a great race, Joe, in this division for first place between the Braves and the Expos, right? 2 best teams maybe in the whole league battling it out with one another. But the real race seems to be more like, is anybody going to beat one of them out for second place?
Well, I think that's interesting, but I think the Braves are still the class of the National League because they have the experience. The Expos are really a young team, and they're going to get better as the season goes along. They're the youngest team in baseball.
Strike 3, Sean Barry. And this one has ended, and for the Expos, it could hardly have ended worse. Jeff Fassero gets clobbered, his worst outing of the year. The Phillies win it 13-0 and get the sweep. And they're heading to Pittsburgh. Now, next Sunday night, we'll be at the Skydome. The world champion Blue Jays, Paul Molitor and company, taking on Palmeiro, Ripken, and the Orioles, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Well, that does it. Happy Father's Day, everyone. The final score here, 13-0 for the Phillies. John Miller for Joe Morgan. Good night, everyone. SportsCenter is next.